This lesson is going to be about fractions greater than 1. We're going to look at two different ways that we can write a fraction that's greater than 1, and then you're going to learn how to convert between those two different ways to write the fraction. So the first way to write a fraction greater than 1 is to use a mixed number, and a mixed number has a whole number and a fraction. An example of a mixed number would be 1 and 2/3. It has a whole number and a fraction. So it's a mixed number. The second way we can write a fraction greater than 1 is by using an improper fraction. And in an improper fraction, the numerator is greater than the denominator. So an example of that would be, let's say, 7/3. The numerator, 7, is greater than the denominator. For the rest of the lesson that we're going to be doing, we're going to be focusing on how to switch back and forth between mixed numbers and improper fractions. So it's important for you to think back to when we learned how to decompose a fraction. And then you also are going to need to know that vocabulary of mixed number and improper fraction. You need to know what those mean. So we're going to start by learning how to take a mixed number and turn it into an improper fraction. There's two steps that you're going to do. The first step is going to be to decompose the whole number and the fraction, and I'll show you what that means in a second. The second step is going to be to add up the parts. So if we look at this fraction, we have 2 and 3/4. So it's a mixed number, has a whole number and a fraction. So think about what we know about a fraction. Our denominator is 4. So we want to get an improper fraction that has 4 as a denominator. So we can think about how many fourths does it take to make one whole. I know that when my numerator and denominator are the same, it equals one whole. So if I have 4/4, that's 1. I need to get to 2. So I'm going to add another 4/4. That gives me 2. Then I'm going to do the fraction, which is 3/4. And we're going to add those up. Remember that when we're adding a fraction, our denominator stays the same. We're just adding the numerator. So we're going to add, let me get a different color, 4 plus 4 plus 3. So 4 and 4 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. So we will get 11/4. Now we have an improper fraction. Okay, let's do another example of taking a mixed number and turning it into an improper fraction. So here we have 4 and 2/3. So now we're looking at thirds. So again, we're going to decompose that whole number. We're going to break it apart and turn it into fractions. 3/3 is a whole, and I need to get to 4 wholes. So 1 whole plus 2 wholes. So 3/3 plus 3/3 plus 3/3 plus 3/3. That's the same thing as saying 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. That's going to equal 4. And then we're going to add our fraction, 2/3. So we want to find out what that equals. Our denominator stays the same. We're just going to add up our numerator. So we're going to add 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 2. So if you think about multiplication, 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. So the improper fraction would be 14/3. Sometimes you're going to have an improper fraction, and you're going to need to turn that into a mixed number. So we're going to look at how to do that. We're going to do very similar steps. We're going to decompose the fraction, then we're going to use the parts to make a mixed number. So our example here is 10/3. So it's an improper fraction because the numerator is greater than the denominator. 10 is more than 3. When you decompose an improper fraction, I want you to think about as many wholes that you can make. So what I mean is, if I know that 3/3 makes one whole, I want to see how many times I can do that without going past 10. So 3/3 plus 3/3 would be 6/3, so I haven't passed 10 yet. I can add another 3/3, and that puts me at 9/3 so far. And I need to get to 10, so I'm going to add one more third. Because 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1 is 10. So now I want to make that a mixed number. So, let me get back to my purple. This is one whole, plus another whole, plus another whole. So that's the same thing as having 3 wholes. And then I can look at the fraction that's left is 1/3. So 10/3 is the same thing as 3 wholes and 1/3. All right, let's do one more example of taking an improper fraction and turning it into a mixed number. So we're starting with 9/4. So we're going to decompose that fraction and we're going to think about how many wholes we can make. So 4/4 makes one whole. I want to see how many times I can do that without passing 9. So 4/4 plus 4/4, that's going to give me 8/4. So I know I can't add 4 more because I'll go past 9. So I have 1/4 left. So now we want to turn that into a mixed number. So this is one whole and this is one whole. So that gives us 2 wholes, and the part that's left over, our fraction that's left over, we add to it. So 2 and 1/4 is the same thing as 9/4.